Ukrainian President Zelensky on Monday compared the current state of Ukrainians to the genocide of Jews in World War II. In an address to Israel's parliament on Russian invasion, Zelensky stated that the threat is the same for us as it was for you. Zelensky claimed that the plans of a final solution to the Ukraine question is underway in Moscow. The final solution famously refers to the Nazi plan for the genocide of Jews during World War II. Zelensky alleged that there is complete destruction of people's state culture, even of the name in Ukraine. That is why I have a right to compare it with World War II. In the video meeting, Zelensky declared that it is up to people of Israel to supply arms to Ukraine or impose sanctions against Russia. Zelensky evoked the history between Ukraine and the Jews to evoke the Israel parliament. He said the righteous people of the world stand with Ukraine now because it made a choice to save the Jews 80 years ago. Now is your time to make the choice, he added. This isn't the first time that Zelensky has invoked the historical tragedies to appeal to the international leaders. In his address to the US Congress, he summoned the memory of Pearl Harbor and the September 11, 2001 terror attacks to appeal more help from US in Ukraine's fight against Russia. So far, Israel has delivered tons of humanitarian aid to Ukraine and announced that it will be setting up a field hospital there. A South African court has halted construction of Amazon's new Africa headquarters after some descendants of the country's earliest inhabitants said the land it would be built on was sacred. The Western Cape Division of the High Court interdicted the project developer from continuing with works at Cape Town site until there had been meaningful engagement and consultation with affected indigenous people. This matter ultimately concerns the rights of indigenous people, the fundamental right to culture and heritage of indigenous groups, more particularly the Khoi and San First Nations people, are under threat in the absence of proper consultation, Judge Patricia Goliath said in her ruling. The Khoi and the San were the earliest inhabitants of South Africa, latter roaming as the hunter-gatherers for tens of thousands of years and the former joining them as pastoralites more than 2000 years ago. Some of their descendants had objected the River Club development where Amazon would be the anchor tenant, but which also includes plans for a hotel, retail offices and homes as it lies at the confluence of two rivers considered sacred, the Black and Leesbeek rivers. Not everyone identifying with the Khoi and San was against the project. An association of Khoi and San who supported it was among the respondents in the case. Amazon was not named as a respondent, and the company did not respond to an email request for comment sent outside office hours. Goliath said her ruling should not be construed as a criticism of the development, but that the core issue was that there needed to be proper consultation before it could go ahead. Amazon already employs thousands of people in the data hubs in Cape Town, and with over a third of South Africans unemployed, authorities are keen to encourage foreign investment. Construction of the River Club development had continued despite the case being before the court. The governor of Sumy, Oblast Dimitro, announced on Monday that ammonia leaked from the Sumy Kimprom chemical plant at 4:30 am local time. He claimed that the plant was hit during a Russian airstrike. The estimated area of contamination is around 2.5 km from the site. This includes other two villages also. However, there is no threat to Sumy residents. People within the affected area are recommended to take immediate shelter underground. They have been advised to turn on their showers with a fine spray and breathe through a damp bandage, preferably moistened with 5% acetic or citric acid solution if ammonia is detected. According to a report by Nexstar, the State Emergency Service of Ukraine announced that the leak at the plant was eliminated at around 9 a.m. local time. A 50-ton ammonia tank was damaged by airstrike. Earlier this month, a Russian attack near Zaporizhia nuclear power plant in Ukraine erupted in flames, causing international outrage. Russia had denied targeting the site. Russian military has also seized control of Chernobyl nuclear plant, the site of the biggest nuclear disaster in history. On Friday, UN Crisis Coordinator Amin Awad issued a statement that United Nations and partners had completed the first convoy of urgent humanitarian aid to the city of Sumy, one of the most war-affected areas of the country. US President Joe Biden would attend an emergency NATO summit, address European Union leaders, and hold a meeting with G7 leaders, his national security advisor has said on the eve of his departure for Brussels and Poland. Biden is scheduled to leave for Europe to show a united front and take stock of the situation in the wake of Russian invasion of Ukraine. He will attend an emergency NATO summit, joined by the leaders of other 29 NATO allies. He will join the G7 leaders and he will address the 27 leaders of European Union at a session of European Council. He will have the opportunity to coordinate on the next phase of military assistance to Ukraine. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan told reporters at a White House news conference on Tuesday. He will join our partners in imposing further sanctions on Russia and tightening the existing sanctions to crack down on evasion and to ensure robust enforcement, Sullivan said, adding that the Biden will work with allies on longer-term adjustments to NATO force posture on the eastern flank. He will announce joint action on enhancing European energy security and reducing Europe's dependence on Russian gas at long last. He will announce further American contributions to a coordinated humanitarian response to ease the suffering of civilians inside Ukraine and to respond to the growing flow of refugees, he said from Brussels. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has again dismissed calls to boycott Russian energy supplies in the wake of the attack on Ukraine. Scholz said Tuesday that the sanctions already imposed on Russia were already hitting its economy, and this will only get more dramatic every day. At the same time, the sanctions were designed to be tolerable for those imposing them, including in the long term, he said. That is why Germany's position on this question of an energy boycott remains unchanged, said Scholz. He added that the other countries in Europe are even more dependent on Russian oil, coal and gas than Germany, and nobody must be left standing out in the rain in this regard. Scholz said Germany is working to diversify its energy supply and that while this will take time, it will eventually have the same effect as a boycott. European countries pay Russia hundreds of millions of dollars each day for fossil fuels. Ukrainian officials say this trade effectively finances Russia's war against their country. Stephen Wilhite, the inventor of Internet popular short video format, the GIF, has died. He was 74. His wife Kathleen said Thursday in a phone interview that he died of COVID on March 14. Will Hyde, who lived in Milford, won a Webby Lifetime Achievement Awards in 2013 for inventing the GIF, which decades after its creation became omnipresent in memes and on social media, often used as a cheeky representation of a cultural movement. Will Hyde was working at CompuServe in 1987 when he invented the GIF. I saw the format, I wondered in my head, and then I started programming. He told the New York Times in 2013, saying the first image was an airplane. In that interview, he said 90s era dancing baby GIF is a favorite of his. There is way more to him than inventing GIF, Kathleen Wilhite said of her husband, who loved trains, with a room dedicated to them in the basement of their house with enormous train tracks, as well as taking camping trips. Still, even after he retired in 2001, he never stopped programming, she said. On Monday afternoon, state media first reported that a Chinese airliner with 133 people on board has crashed in the southern province of Guangxi, sparking a mountainside fire. The Civil Aviation Administration of China later confirmed the crash on its website and said 132 people included 123 passengers and 9 crew members. The China Eastern flight from Kunming to Guangzhou departed at 1:11 p.m. Flight Radar 24 data showed it was due to land at 3:05 p.m. State media said local police first received calls from villagers alerting the crash around 2:30 p.m. Guangxi Provincial Emergency Management Department said contact with the plane was lost at 2:15 p.m. According to the official media, the plane sharply descended onto the mountainous area and crashed. Footage shot by locals on their phones showed the area of the crash engulfed by massive mountainous fire, with explosions heard in the background. President Xi Jinping ordered the immediate launch of emergency response, all-out search and rescue efforts, and proper settlement of the aftermath. He said swift action should be taken to identify the cause of the crash and to strengthen the safety overhaul of the civil aviation sector to ensure the absolute safety of the sector and people's lives. In the highest ranking defection yet over Russia's invasion of Ukraine, a prominent advisor to Russian President Vladimir Putin resigned from the government on Wednesday and reportedly left Russia. Anatoly Chubais was Kremlin's special envoy for relations with International Organization for Sustainable Development. According to sources, Chubais resented Putin's war on Ukraine, reported Bloomberg News. Although Chubais' whereabouts aren't confirmed, he was reportedly seen at an ATM in Turkey. According to certain media reports, Chubais was sighted in Istanbul. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov confirmed that Chubais had resigned from the government on Wednesday. However, he refrained from confirming if Chubais had left Russia. Yes, Chubais has resigned voluntarily, and it is up to him whether to leave or not, Peskov was quoted as saying by Interfax news agency. Chubais was reportedly not a particular influential member in the government. He had no say in security affairs. However, his resignation is sure to make some noise in a country where he is widely known. Chubais' claim to fame was being the architect of Russia's controversial privatization scheme in 1990s. The scheme not only helped create country's market economy, but also concentrated immense wealth in the hands of a group of wealthy oligarchs. South Korea's total coronavirus infection topped 10 million, or nearly 20% of its population, authorities said on Wednesday, as surging severe cases and deaths increasingly put a strain on crematories and funeral homes nationwide. Country has been battling a record COVID-19 wave driven by the highly infectious Omicron variant, even as it largely scrapped its once aggressive trace and quarantine efforts and eased social distancing curbs. The Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency reported 4,90,881 cases for Tuesday, the second highest daily tally after it peaked at 6,21,205 on March 16. The total case load rose to 1 crore 4,27,247 with 13,432 deaths. The country's infection and death rates are still far below those recorded elsewhere, as almost 87% of its 52 million residents are fully vaccinated and 63 have received booster shots. But the death toll nearly doubled in just about 6 weeks, with daily fatalities peaking at 429 last Friday. Fueling demands for funeral arrangements, authorities have already boosted the combined daily cremation capacity from about 1,000 to 1,400 per day starting last week. But a large backlog of bodies and a long wait continued to be reported in the densely populated areas. With the price of essential commodities skyrocketed, Sri Lankan refugees have begun to flock to Tamil Nadu. On Tuesday, March 22, a family of 6 Sri Lankan Tamils, including 4 children, were found by Indian Coast Guard near 4th Island, Rameswaram, and were on Wednesday another 10 people, including 5 children, reached Indian shores. Shiva Shankari, one of the refugees, stated she decided to leave as there was no way to survive in Sri Lanka. But when crossing the sea, the engine failed. The anchor was lost and the refugees were stuck at sea, battling the hot sun. After a huge struggle, they managed to cross the sea and arrive in the middle of the night handed over to the coastal security group. Shiva, another refugee, stated that there was a shortage of rice, palm oil, and petrol. A kilo of rice cost rupees 250 to 300. I left with my wife and my sister's family. Many more families are getting ready to leave. We came to Tamil Nadu in 1990 and stayed at Mandap camp for 15 years and then went back. Now we have to return once again, he said. Long queues of frustrated people cooking outside gas stations and stationery shops were observed. Officials from Mandapam have also estimated that if the crisis continues, between 2,000 to 4,000 refugees might land in Tamil Nadu.